The story starts explaining that in Dahlia Academy boarding school, students were split into two factions, the White Cats and the Black Dogs. Moreover, we are also told that the White Cats' first years are led by Juliet Persia, and the Black Dogs' first years are led by Romeo and Inuzuka. The Black Dogs are students that came from the eastern nation of Tuwa, and the White Cats came from the Principality of the West. Furthermore, violent fights between both factions were common. In fact, in front of the academy, both groups began to fight to their heart's content, and the battle only stopped when the prefect from the White Cats appeared. Once everybody left, we found out that not only Inuzuka and Persia had been rivals since childhood, but also that Inuzuka had fallen in love with Persia and had been secretly keeping her safe in every fight by not going all out against her. On the other hand, Persia was angry that Inuzuka had never fought her seriously. Sometime later, Inuzuka saw some older White Cats bullying a group of younger Black Dogs, but just when he was about to intervene, Persia stepped in and protected them. However, they all ended up seeing him, and when she demanded to know what he was doing there, Inuzuka almost confessed his love, but in the end he ran away instead. Unfortunately, after some time, 3 Black Dogs attacked Persia and managed to defeat her by using some dirty tricks, and to add insult to injury, once they beat her, they began to molest her. Luckily, Inuzuka arrived on time and quickly saved her, making the 3 Black Dogs to angrily leave. Sadly, Persia seemed to believe that he was with the attackers and ran away crying. That night, the 3 Black Dogs tried to attack Inuzuka for stealing Persia from them, but he beat them up. Immediately thereafter, Persia sent Inuzuka a message to meet for a duel. Inuzuka go to the location and Persia asked him why he had saved her, if he was with the attackers. Inuzuka hesitated because he wasn't ready to confess his love yet, but she took that as if he was looking down on her and told him that if he had saved her out of pity, that was worse than he being with the attackers. Those words made him realize that she hated appearing weak and that he had unwittingly been undermining her goal of making the world better. He then accepted to go all out against her and the duel began. Nevertheless, while they were fighting, he finally confessed his love and asked to help her change the world. Persia hesitated because she didn't believe his words at first, but then agreed to date him as long as he showed her he could change the world and kept their relationship secret. While both factions were having one of their usual group fights, Inuzuka tried to sneak Persia away to have some quality time together, but they were interrupted by Hasuki Komai, his second-in-command, and had to pretend they were fighting. Later that day, Inuzuka tried to give Persia a rosary as a love token, but was caught by Scott Hold, Persia's second-in-command, who pushed him off a building. Upon awakening, Hasuki informed him the Black Dogs were attacking Persia as retaliation. Inuzuka immediately went to protect her, but while looking for Persia, he ended up fighting Scott and other White Cats, and shortly after he accidentally broke the rosary. He then went berserk and used a statue to beat both the White Cats and the Black Dogs. As punishment, he was forced to pick up weeds around the school's lake. Persia then appeared and asked him to go for a boat ride with her. While at it, she accepted the broken rosary and gave him her personal rosary in return. Inuzuka tried to refuse as her rosary had sentimental value, upsetting Persia enough to drop him in the lake for being dense. Sometime later, Inuzuka asked Persia on a date and she accepted it. However, she ended up disguising herself as a Black Dog young boy to keep their relationship a secret, causing Hasuki to suspect Inuzuka was into men. Unfortunately, Persia looked very cute as a young boy, and many Black Dogs tried to be her friend, forcing Inuzuka to claim he was Julio, his cousin. Although Scott almost recognized her due to her smell, as weird as it sounds. Sadly, due to all his admirers, the date didn't go well, and Persia left his side, making him feel guilty, an opening that was used by Chizuru Maru, one of the Black Dogs who tried to molest Persia before, to push him into the lake. Luckily, Persia beat Maru in a fight and rescued Inuzuka. Afterwards, she told him that she considered the date a success because they had learned more about each other, though they were again interrupted by Scott and had to pretend again that they were fighting. However, shortly after, a silver-haired White Cat young woman saw Persia and Inuzuka together from afar and realized they were dating. Inuzuka asked Persia on a date for their 1-month anniversary, and at the same time Princess Char, the tyrant princess of the West and also the silver-haired young woman from before, was returning after a year's absence. She quickly asked for a welcoming committee, but Inuzuka refused to be part of it and almost hit her after she provoked him. However, she revealed to him that she had pictures proving he was dating Persia and blackmailed him into becoming her servant. Inuzuka reluctantly agreed, knowing that if their relationship was revealed, Persia would lose her leadership of the cats. After seeing that Inuzuka began to run away every time a whistle sounded, she began to become jealous. Nevertheless, Inuzuka refused to reveal the blackmail to Persia, but assured her he was keeping her safe. Persia then, unused to seeing Inuzuka so downtrodden, reminded him they still had their anniversary date, which made Inuzuka determined to defeat Char. Sometime later, Inuzuka was thrown out of the Black Dog's dormitory by Muru's gang, after the latter found out that the former had betrayed their faction. However, they didn't punish him further due to Hasuki's pleading. While trying to find a way to get back at Char, Inuzuka discovered that the princess was Persia's childhood friend and that she was sharing a room with Persia in White Cat's dorms. Afterwards, Inuzuka sneaked into that room and found Char's collection of Persia's pictures that was hidden behind a secret door, revealing that Char was in love with Persia. The princess then arrived and he confronted her, but while she was trying to find a way out, Persia arrived. Char got desperate to keep her feelings secret from her friend, and Inuzuka ended up helping her by hiding the pictures and himself behind the mirror until Persia left. As Inuzuka now had material to blackmail Char, they formed an uneasy truce. In fact, he told her that he understood what it felt being unable to confess your feelings. Afterwards, Inuzuka rushed to their date and noticed that Persia had his broken rosary repaired and was wearing it. Nevertheless, what they didn't know was that Char was spying on them, although she decided to leave them be for the time being, as thanks for Inuzuka having helped her before. As midterm exams approached, the Black Dogs began a 72-hour study session led by Hasuki, who had the best grades, and Inuzuka made Persia join them. Thanks to that, it is revealed that Muru had a crush on Giulio, after Persia in disguise defeated him to save Inuzuka. That night, Inuzuka helped Persia to sneak out but was almost caught by Hasuki, who let him know that she was worried about him keeping secrets. Once she left, Char appeared and warned him of the risk Hasuki posed, but Inuzuka insisted Hasuki was his best friend and would keep his secret if she found out. In the meantime, Muru asked Hasuki why she liked Inuzuka, and she revealed that Inuzuka helped her make friends. Unfortunately for her, Inuzuka overheard their entire conversation, but she took that chance to finally confess her feelings to him. Then, after realizing he couldn't lie to her given the circumstances, he revealed he was dating Persia. However, contrary to his expectations, Hasuki overreacted to the point of trying to force him to commit suicide. Of course, he ended up running away, but she chased after him to behead him. Persia heard the commotion, and when she saw Hasuki chasing Inuzuka with a sword, she decided to follow them into the woods. Once in there, Inuzuka told her what had happened, and almost immediately Hasuki found them and almost killed Persia, but was stopped by Char, who had followed her friend. The princess then admitted that she knew Persia was dating Inuzuka, and both Hasuki and Char decided to kill Inuzuka. He then took Persia and ran away with her, but they soon reached the edge of a cliff, and realizing they couldn't escape the situation, he began to feel worthless as he couldn't even be honest with his best friend or making her to accept his relationship. Right after, Persia assured him he truly had the ability to change the world because he had changed her heart the day he confessed to her. After hearing that, Inuzuka regained his confidence to the point of allowing Hasuki to attack him, claiming he would never stop being her friend. In fact, he managed to survive the blow only because her sword was a replica. However, Persia tripped and fell off the cliff straight into the river, and Inuzuka immediately jumped after her, forgetting that he couldn't swim. In the end, Hasuki saved him while Char saved Persia. Afterwards, Hasuki claimed that she still hated him, but since she had seen how deep was his love for Persia, she accepted to still be his friend, though she warned him that she would behead him if he flirted with Persia in front of her. Inuzuka asked Persia to make a bento for him without knowing she was a terrible cook. She tried to cook for him but in the end had to ask the kitchen maid for help. Afterwards, when Persia gave Inuzuka the bento, Char, who had never tried Persia's cooking, stole it but accidentally dropped it on Scott, who then believed that Persia had made the bento for him. Immediately thereafter, Inuzuka defeated Scott but ended up losing the bento, which was eaten by pigs. After seeing how far things had gotten, Char dragged Scott away for further torment. Then Persia admitted she hadn't cooked the bento, and Inuzuka told her she didn't have to act perfect when they were alone. Those words made her happy, but she still said she swore to one day make a perfect bento. Sometime later, Muru warned Inuzuka to quit the sports festival since the Black Dogs had lost to the White Cats thanks to a mistake made by Inuzuka during the 100-meter race. Right after, Hasuki heard a rumor that anyone who danced with the festival's MVP would become their lover and decided to win MVP in order to dance with Inuzuka. As for Scott, he also planned to win MVP, but to dance with Persia. Later, Inuzuka heard the training song of the White Cats and got pissed, so he tried to punch Scott, but his attack was blocked by Somali long-haired, a white cat with superhuman strength. Almost immediately, Somali's friend and crush, Abyssinia, asked Persia to become his girlfriend if he won MVP, which obviously started a fight because not only Scott and Inuzuka, but even Somali got mad at Abby. Luckily, Persia intervened and managed to defuse the situation before it escalated. That night, Persia asked Inuzuka for help practicing for the three-legged race so she could win MVP and increase her popularity, though she really was helping Inuzuka get over his defeat in the previous festival. In the end, they agreed that if either of them won MVP, the loser should obey one order from the winner. Thanks to that, Inuzuka became highly motivated and entered the 100-meter race again. Inuzuka decided he would order Persia to call him by his first name, Romeo, once he won the MVP. Shortly after, the festival finally began, and during the first half of it, through rampant cheating, the Black Dogs and White Cats scored equal points. Once the interlude started, Persia told Inuzuka her mother was watching from the audience, and Inuzuka was surprised that she wanted him to meet her mother someday. Unfortunately, once the festival resumed, during one of the events Somali injured Persia on Abi's orders, and during Persia's next race against Hasuki the injury caused Persia to trip. Abi and his allies blamed Persia for being a weak girl, and the audience ridiculed Persia as she was forced to leave for treatment. After seeing that, Inuzuka got furious that he couldn't help Persia when she needed him and was further enraged when Char, who was also mad for being unable to help her friend, explained that Abi was trying to steal Persia's leadership of the White Cats, so he decided to destroy Abi in the final event, the cavalry battle. The Black Dogs began losing due to Abi having drugged most of them, and to add insult to injury, Muru initially refused to cooperate as Inuzuka's horse for the event. Fortunately, Persia arrived disguised as Julio, which inspired both Muru and Inuzuka. Immediately thereafter, they eliminated all White Cats except Abi and Somali. Inuzuka and Muru called out Abi for his underhanded tactics, and Somali attacked Muru, but was stopped by Inuzuka, who found proof that Somali's spiked shoes had injured Persia before, so he threw Abi into the audience, defeating him. Nevertheless, before the referee declared the Black Dogs the winners, Inuzuka demanded Persia fight him as well, or he could never claim to have beaten all the White Cats. After all, he wanted a perfect victory. Persia, happy that Inuzuka was treating her as an equal, asked Char for her help and returned to the arena to fight him. Persia and Inuzuka's battle began, and both teams fought with all they had, making a great show for the audience. In fact, the crowd started cheering for Persia again since they knew she was injured and wanted to show their appreciation for her effort. Shortly after, Inuzuka almost grabbed Persia's ribbon but accidentally grabbed her melons instead, and because of the impression, he suffered a nosebleed and fainted. Of course, after that, the White Cats were declared victors, with Persia winning MVP. On the other hand, Inuzuka was replaced as the Black Dogs leader by Hasuki and was even punished for being a lecher and a traitor. That time not even Hasuki vouched for him. Later at the party, Persia sneaked away and asked Inuzuka to dance with her, although he was still oblivious to the whole jinx that dance had, which was known by Persia. A month later, the student council discussed the issues raised during the sport festival and after some bickering, decided to monitor Inuzuka since Abi's faction was falling apart. Meanwhile, Inuzuka, who had not seen Persia for a whole month, developed a fever from the stress of losing his position, so Hasuki decided to nurse him. However, some problem arose and she was dragged away against her will because she had to solve the issue as the new leader. Afterwards, Persia sneaked in disguised as Julio to see him, and after having some funny and risque moments together, she left to look for some food and water for him. Unfortunately, she was waylaid by Maru, who began asking her awkward questions because he doubted her identity. She ended up running away but stumbled into the female baths, where she was mistaken for a pervert, causing a commotion. Afterwards, she made it back to Inuzuka's room to change her white clothes, but when Eiko Koetsuji, one of Maru's delinquents, tried to retrieve a porn magazine he had left in Inuzuka's room, Persia hid in Inuzuka's bed while still half naked, making his fever worse. In the end, he recovered thanks to Persia singing the same song his mother sang him when he was a young kid and was sick, and Persia admitted she was unaware he had a fever when she first arrived. The real reason she had sneaked in was because she had missed him just as much as he had missed her. Meanwhile, in another room, two young girls, who were sisters, were having a conversation while one of them looked at a picture of Inuzuka. The younger sister asked the other what she was looking at, and the older sister replied that, as a prefect, she had to keep her eye on their problematic child. The Harvest Festival was approaching, and twin Black Dog prefects Kako and Tirio were left in charge of discipline by Eru. Afterwards, Inuzuka invited Persia to the festival, and she agreed but refused to dress as Julio in case Maru spotted her. Of course, that would make it tough to visit the stalls together, but they agreed on watching the fireworks together at the end. Shortly after, Inuzuka met Kako and Tyria, who revealed they almost hurt in talking to Persia, but Inuzuka managed to convince them and Hasuki, who arrived later, that he was talking to some imaginary friends, although the three girls began to feel pity for him. In fact, the twins took that as an excuse to invade Inuzuka's room, and while being in there, they found Persia's rosary. Immediately, they concluded that the rosary had a secret meaning and decided to find out what was it. Sometime later, the festival began and Persia and Inuzuka met up but were forced to hide from the twins who were chasing the young man. Afterwards, Inuzuka witnessed the twins subduing two violent students and challenged them to beat him at the festival games. They played several games and had tons of fun. Moreover, after he lost, he promised they could challenge him again whenever they wanted, as he had realized the twins wanted to attend the festival but had no friends to go with. Not to mention, they had to maintain their image of perfect students in front of others. Although both girls tried to pretend they were not that interested in his promise, in the end, they happily agreed to challenge him again one day. Inuzuka then rushed back to Persia but was too late to watch the fireworks with her, though Persia was happy because she had seen his softer side while he was playing with the twins. Yes, she had also realized what the two prefects really wanted. Back at the dorms, the twins wondered how much trouble Inuzuka might cause if he became a prefect at the next elections, and immediately thereafter it was revealed that Eru was not only a high-ranking member of the student council, but was also Inuzuka's older brother. Char was very happy thinking that Persia's birthday was very close, and she got even happier when her friend told her that she needed a favor. However, the princess' mood changed completely for the worst when she heard what was the favor her friend wanted from her. As for Inuzuka, he was also happy because his girlfriend's birthday was close. In fact, he was planning to buy Persia a present and trick the twin prefects into giving him permission to go shopping. Once in town, he bumped into Char, but a police officer warned them that radicals from Tua, Inuzuka's home country, were nearby and demanded Char return to school, so Char forced Inuzuka to become her bodyguard. Back at the dorms, the twins discussed about Inuzuka's rosary and were overheard by Inuzuka's brother, Eru. Meanwhile in town, Char made Inuzuka to go shopping with her under the promise she would tell him what Persia would really want as a birthday present. However, they couldn't help but keep bickering the entire time since they didn't like each other. In fact, the princess even tried to manipulate Inuzuka into breaking up with Persia. She went as far as offering herself to him if he broke with his girlfriend, and he simply and plainly scolded her for her behavior. That response made Char recall that only other person who had ever scolded her was Persia. Afterwards, they split, and while the princess was walking through a tunnel, she was accosted by radicals who assumed Inuzuka, a fellow young man from Tuo, would help them, but he decided to help Char instead, and both of them managed to beat the radicals. Once they were done with the attackers, Char asked Inuzuka why he had helped her, and he replied that Persia would cry if Char were hurt. That made the princess realize how much he loved her friend, and she ended up admitting to him that she was jealous because Persia had asked her to help her spend her birthday with him. That night, Inuzuka received a secret message from Persia inviting him to meet her in the library the next day. Once they met, Inuzuka asked Persia what present she wanted, and she asked for matching couples' accessories. In the meantime, Char was in the dorm, tormenting Scott while thinking that Persia and Inuzuka were destined to break up, and wondered what she would do when that happened. Later that night, Inuzuka returned to his room and found Hasuki there, along with the twin prefects and his brother. Eru confronted Inuzuka with the rosary and the bra he had found in his room and warned him that if Inuzuka was in contact with a white cat girl, he would expel not only from the academy but also from the family, since he would not allow the family name to be tarnished by him. In fact, Eru began to punish his brother by strangling him and only stopped when both twin prefects intervened. He had even threatened Hasuki with considering her an accomplice if she tried to stop him. In the end, Eru decided to personally supervise Inuzuka for 7 days to evaluate his behavior. However, Persia's birthday fell within those 7 days, and that was a problem for Inuzuka. The evaluation period began, and everybody noticed how bad Inuzuka looked. It seemed as if his spirit had been crushed. In fact, Inuzuka revealed to the twins that Eru used to beat him when they were children, so he represented a wall for him. On the other hand, Persia had finally managed to make perfect cookies for Inuzuka thanks to the kitchen maid's support, but became worried after seeing that he was always with his brother and looked more downtrodden than ever. Back with Inuzuka, Eru forced him to resume kendo training and beat him mercilessly. However, afterwards, Inuzuka revealed to Hasuki that he was tricking Eru into lowering his guard so he could escape and see Persia on her birthday. That surprised Hasuki, who then reminded him he could end up being expelled, which was something she didn't want to happen, but he reassured her that that wouldn't happen and left. Immediately thereafter, Persia, who had overheard part of their conversation, confronted Hasuki and demanded to know what was wrong with Inuzuka. That night, Inuzuka sneaked out but was caught by Eru. He tried to stand up to him but was knocked unconscious and locked in a shed. However, Inuzuka had known Eru would lock him in a shed and had previously convinced the twins to defy Eru by opening the shed once Eru had left. Inuzuka then rushed to Persia but collapsed from his injuries. Fortunately, Persia made it in time and caught him. Right after, she tearfully apologized for everything that had happened to him because of their relationship, but he replied that they had done nothing wrong, so there was no need for an apology. The White Cats were on guard against Inuzuka, due to his yearly tradition to crash Persia's birthday party and throw cream pie in her face, while Persia herself began to avoid Inuzuka, so he wouldn't be hurt again, causing him to become depressed. He even talked to her, but she just told him that she didn't want to see him for the time being. Afterwards, Persia told Char everything that had happened and how she couldn't bring herself to be near Inuzuka. Well, she did it after failing miserably at trying to convince her friend that everything was fine. Persia even went as far as to tell the princess that she had cooked the cookies for her, but her friend managed to see through Persia easily. Shortly after, Char gave Inuzuka the cookies Persia had made and before leaving, taunted him into crashing Persia's birthday party again. As for him, after eating the cookies, he realized all the effort Persia had put into them and decided to keep up his yearly tradition. As for Persia, he went to the White Cat members of the student council for advice, but before she talked to them, Inuzuka and the Black Dogs crashed the party with pies. Inuzuka's plan was to find Persia and whisk her away with him, using the whole crashing the party as a distraction. Unfortunately, he was quickly caught by Somali and Abi, who looked completely different due to all the privileges he had lost as punishment for his actions. Nevertheless, before Abi could get revenge, Inuzuka escaped by using Somali's huge infatuation for the red-haired guy against him. Sadly, Inuzuka was then caught by a group of White Cats but again managed to escape. That time, it was thanks to the help of White Cat Kate Sith, who had decided to help Inuzuka in order to make life in the school more interesting. In fact, he even revealed to him that Persia was in the fourth-floor storeroom. Nevertheless, before he could resume his quest, they both were caught by Anne Sieber, the student council secretary, and with his identity as a prefect revealed, Kate Sith told Inuzuka it was his job to stop him from reaching Persia. Meanwhile, Persia, who had been actually locked in the storeroom, tried to escape by climbing out the fourth-floor window. Inuzuka began to fight with Kate Sith, but the prefect beat him with ease. The White Cat even began to show off while mocking the other. However, when Inuzuka thought that there was no way to win, he managed to hear something and almost immediately fooled Kate Sith to create an opening, which he took advantage of to jump out of the window. That action surprised everybody since they were on the third floor, but what they didn't know was that Inuzuka had realized that Persia was on the balcony, so once he got outside, he managed to reach her and she managed to catch him. Shortly after, when they got alone, Inuzuka finally wished Persia happy birthday, and Persia admitted that she loved him. Back to the main hall, Eru had arrived, but before he could locate Inuzuka, he and Persia pied each other in the face and declared their fight a draw. However, Eru publicly confronted Inuzuka with Persia's rosary and the cursed bra and accused them of being lovers. Of course, Persia quickly accused Inuzuka and his brother of trying to make a fool of her. Unfortunately, Eru had a strong case and began to explain how he had arrived to that conclusion. He sounded so convincing that the people present from both factions began to doubt both Inuzuka and Persia. Nevertheless, Persia didn't step back and replied that his evidence was circumstantial, but that argument was not enough for clearing their reputations. In that moment, Kate Sith decided to intervene, and although Eru tried to stop him, the White Cat prefect got serious and reminded the other that they were in the White Cat's house. Afterwards, both prefects decided to take Persia and Inuzuka away with them. Nevertheless, Persia and Inuzuka knew that if they didn't do anything, the doubt would always remain, so she challenged him to a duel with real swords. After some hesitation, he accepted and they began to fight. All the people present began to fear for their safety, but Eru still didn't believe them, so Inuzuka and Persia decided they should actually wound each other to stay together and stabbed each other in the chest. Later, it was revealed they actually stabbed each other in the rosaries they were both wearing. Destroying them, they had both managed to hint at the other their locations before landing the finishing blow. And fortunately, after the incident, the school got convinced they were enemies. While in the infirmary, Inuzuka secretly gave Persia matching rings, declared that before changing the world, he would change the school by becoming a prefect, and asked her to wait for him until then. Sometime later, Eru, despite still being suspicious, allowed Inuzuka to become a student council errand boy as his first step on the road towards becoming a prefect. Then, on their next secret date, while wearing their matching rings, Persia and Inuzuka decided that one day, when they had nothing to fear, they would call each other by their first names, Romeo and Juliet. And that's how the Season 1 comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this anime in the comments. And as always, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.